in college, but I have no idea. I know you're an IHFG champ down in Chile, but I don't know what year. But good morning, Sean. Good afternoon. How are you doing, then, man?
I'm doing well. Doing well. So I am Sean Burns. I've been throwing in Highland Games for 7 years now. Before that, I threw at South Dakota State, way up there in the north, for shot put, discus, and hammer. And so, I always tell people that my running friends could go from running whatever they were to running 5Ks, having fun doing 5Ks. People like to run. Running's never been my thing. And this is that good transition to something that's fun, but also relatable to what I did in college.
Highland Games.
Just throwing things. Anybody want me to throw something, I'm interested.
What's the most interesting thing you've thrown?
Last year in France, we threw a giant cork. That would probably
like a champagne cork.
Yes, absolutely. That would probably be the most unique thing that I have gotten to throw. My wife, Christina Jorgis Burns, she threw an alligator in Florida this year.
Dude.
So
by the tail.
They had it was like a stuffed animal, and they had like a handle on it. They put a handle on it so that you could actually I don't remember. Maybe it was by the tail. But they were throwing it. I think they waited a little bit and it flew. It was beautiful to watch.
That is pretty fun, man. That is pretty fun, dude. Yeah, so man, I met you at the Vegas games and chatted with you there about this. And man, Vegas, how were you feeling coming into the Vegas games? You ended up with the win at the end of the day, but it was kind of ups and downs a little bit.
Yeah, so I was feeling practice-wise really good. I came in expecting to throw better numbers than I did. As I'm sure a lot of people know, running the home games is always going to be a little bit different because you are the person that's helping set up. You are the main person making sure things get going. Friday, my wife and I were out there at 4:30 in the morning. We were doing newscasts for the thing. So Saturday, we were out there early to make sure that we had volunteers where they needed to be. Sunday, we also have a 2-year-old. So she threw up Sunday morning at 2:30 in the morning. And I had been up basically that whole day. I had to throw that day, but it was more important that my wife, who is the athletic director, get her sleep because she has to deal with a lot more things than me as somebody who's in the group. So
you're already pretty exhausted starting up with Braemar.
Yeah, and so we got to Braemar, and I had a stomach ache, and I don't know if it was the lack of food, the lack of water, the lack of anything, or maybe it was just whatever my daughter had. And it progressively got worse right around the time where we got hammers, and I didn't know if I could stand up. And
let's talk about stones for a little bit here, man. You're 6'8".
Yes.
And there was a dude there, James Rood, who's also 6'8".
Yes.
6'8", 380. He ended up winning Braemar, but by inches. Yeah, 3¼ inches. Did you know he was coming? Did you see that coming?
I didn't know he was coming.
Yeah. Do you know him? I'd never met the guy. Great guy. I'd never met him before.
I think I may have seen him before. I'm really bad with names, really bad with everything else. When I'm throwing, I kind of zone in and zone out of actually what's going on. So I don't actually know what the numbers are until afterwards. So he came out, he threw a big throw. I knew that we had to be there, and so I was able to stay right with them with Braemar. We were just neck and neck. So it was kind of a fun wake-up call right away. And then open stone, I was able to get a few more inches on him from there.
Open stone, you got first by 3¼ inches. He beat you in Braemar by 3¼ inches. You beat him in open stone by 3¼ inches.
Yeah. So it was close. things weren't flying. I've always looked at Braemar and Stone as probably the events that I practice the least, but that's also partly because of the shot put background. Like, I know if I can get a couple practices in every once in a while, they should be there for the most part. This time it just didn't happen. And we were also throwing a 24-pound
Yeah, it's heavy.
pancake of a stone that we have. It's not exactly the easiest thing to throw. And, there were a lot of people that came out and started with stones very strong. It was very close to the top there.
Yeah, you were definitely like 2-1 in the stones, but like looking at your Gilbert games, in Phoenix right there, they were like you should have been 1-1.
Yeah.
So you're definitely feeling tired and dragging. I'm just looking at this right now. I knew your Vegas numbers, but looking at the Phoenix numbers right here, realized like, yeah, you were dragging. You must have felt it.
Yeah, I mean, and again, as we progressed, like it got worse and worse, and I've threw some numbers that I have never seen before. Even starting out as a novice a long time ago, I did not throw like once we got to the hammers, I had never thrown in the 60s for heavy hammer.
For the heavy, you won the weight for distance. You went 1-1, took extras.
Yep.
Took extras in the heavyweight, improved on the heavyweight for distance.
I took extras in the heavyweight because I was really pissed off. Like, 33 feet is what I've been averaging, but practice was going so well. Like, I was just trying to push myself through it. And, we had a pretty good men's group, but we also had a lot of people here in Vegas that I had personally invited. Some of my teacher friends, some of our family friends that are around town. And so I was like, I just need to keep trying to push it to make this bigger. And so I did an extra throw in the heavyweight, trying to make it be a little bit bigger of a gap.
Yeah, right there. And so heavy hammer, did you take all 3 attempts?
Heavy hammer, I took all 3 attempts, and it was miserable. My first attempt, I threw 62 feet.
That was your first attempt? Damn.
And I was like, I cannot end on this.
That is like what I throw.
This is that was one of those things where like people were like, all right, they're like, that's something that's different from Sean. And no one has ever accused me of being the most explosive person, but I am fairly consistent on any time that I'm actually throwing, that I'm right around the same numbers, give or take 5 to 10 feet. Like,
okay,
I should be around 80 to 90 feet in the heavy hammer. So I ended up, and I knew that I had to do something. I ended up throwing all 3 heavy throws, and I pulled out an 85 at the end, which really made a huge difference for me.
Stuck in the third.
Yeah.
Second and third, yeah. So let's kind of spend some time there. Like, how did you warm? So hammers, like this scenario of a thrower who had a shit night of sleep because something came up. How did you warm up for hammers? And like specifically, like I saw you taping your fingers for the tack, and it looked like it was a tape job that you've been doing for a long time. How do you warm up? How do you prepare for hammers, man?
Typically, I would say I get in, do a couple winds. So I actually have some of my fingers taped right now. When I tape my fingers, I tape kind of in a cylindrical fashion around my finger until I feel like it's appropriately covering. And the idea behind taping my fingers is that I can have my fingers curl. I don't like gloves. I've never really liked gloves. But when I get sweaty, the tape is still tacky. I don't sweat through my tape generally. And so it allows me to have a better stick with that tack. And it also allows me to go past where like if I didn't have tape on my fingers, I'd probably rip my hands because I want it to rip out of my hands when I'm throwing.
Yeah.
For the Vegas games, putting my boots on was all the warm up that I had. I didn't do anything. I waved at the judge to let them know that I was there, and we rolled with it as it was. So probably that first throw was my warm up, and
65.
Yeah, I didn't focus on anything other than just trying to have some throws go my way. I ended up right about that time taking a Zofran or something that was given to me to help kind of calm my body, and so it hadn't taken effect yet, and I don't think it really took effect until light hammer. So it was just kind of making it by. Like my normal hammers, what I think about is how hard can I throw it up above me to create that stretch while also countering it to push it down to the low point.
You're left-handed, right?
I am left-handed, yes.
The way you did that movement. Okay. So like when you're thinking about coming up here, coming back, like thinking about going wide more? Or just
I don't even think about going wide. I think about how hard can I throw this above my head, because as long as I'm trying to hold on to this, I should have the balance to be able to counter it, and that should create a stretch that makes it go faster. And again, fast is not something that I use. I've been called the sloth most of my life. I am a slow-moving person, but the things that I do well is that I keep my arms long and I don't move the ball from its orbit. So once I've created an orbit, I get longer, not shorter. And then on my finish, once it hits that low point, I am trying to find how far I can put my head away from the ball. So in collegiate hammer, the idea is I go back on my head and I'm looking at the sky. I'm creating the longest extension I can from the hammer ball to my head. And that helps create that last bit of energy to where you can throw it. And so I use the same thing for that.
So the difference between like the pulling up right there cue, you're using it on the first two winds,
Mm-hmm.
the final wind, the delivery.
Yep.
Not so much pulling up, but almost pulling the head pulling the head to like, the opposite side of the clock or something.
And watching my videos, most of the time you'll see my first wind, my head's here. My second wind, I'm looking up a little bit more. And then my third wind, I'm trying to look as I get ready to go into that.
Yeah, classic cue, yeah.
So
looking up right there, yeah. Do you got tape on your fingers, but no tape on your palms? Do you carry the handle very much in your fingers? Do you have a locked grip, golf grip?
I use a golf grip, so okay. It's mostly in my fingers. I can't say that I've ever had too much to do with my palms. Maybe the very top of it.
Yeah. Okay.
It is mostly all my fingers. So, I mean, the best of the best always talk about how can you hold on to it, but also relax. Like,
yeah, to get longer. Yeah.
It's a strange concept, but like this helps me relax my fingers or helps me relax my arms, so that I don't have to try to tense up and bring that in.
Yeah, shrugging it up and shortening it up, like that artificial speed right there. How did you? So warm up was just putting on your boots.
Yeah.
And really the first throw.
Mm-hmm.
And then for light hammer, you made an executive throwing decision. I think I just to paint a little bit here. Like you were sitting under the gazebo, and I was watching the whole competition, but it was you were visually looking rough. Like
yeah.
You were visually, now it's like, okay, this guy's really beat up. Like I thought the heat had got to you until there was a bottle of Pepto-Bismol visible. But ultimately you ended up making a hard but smart executive decision to take just one light hammer attempt. And
yeah,
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. What were you thinking about that?
I mean, I knew that we had lunch coming up, so I knew if I
There's
kept,
no order, so we're barely halfway through. Still got caber beef and wafer height.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I knew I needed a delay. I wanted to take one heavy hammer if it was reasonable, and then just say I'm going to pass these two and wait for a light hammer. So once I had found that rhythm, my third heavyweight was 85 something. I was like, I'm good with that. Let's hit this with light hammer and see where we're at. If we're over 100, like I'm just going to have to call that as good. And thankfully, it was over 100, and it was 105, and I got to lay down for basically the next hour and a half while they finished up throwing, and then we waited for lunch to be done. So without that lunch, I would have been.
Yeah. No, I see. So you got to wait through all their attempts, knowing there was no more stress there. And we had lunch, and then did we do chief after lunch?
We did chief after lunch.
So, but like at this point in the competition, so you end up getting fourth in light hammer.
Mm-hmm.
Just with that one throw of 105, which like at the Gilbert games you had a 115.
Yeah.
Which would have won. At this point of the games, like you and Kevin is starting. Did you know Kevin Moransky?
Yeah, he comes out to practice and throws with us a lot.
Solid little thrower. He looks like a lightweight. He looks like he could be a badass lightweight.
Yeah.
He's like a 220 thick, lean dude. Yeah. But he's
he came from the East Coast, and we're just like, man, he is just a natural athlete. He's just bombing things, throwing things left and right. And I'm like, he can't be much over 200. And no. I don't think he's too much over 200, but
he looked like he was pushing some stones.
Mm-hmm.
But his weights was really showing like he was able to counter with less body weight and able to counter and really push those up there. He ended up getting second in both the weights for distance.
Yep.
But so after that light hammer attempt, you had a big long break. And Sheaf, you knew you could come in late for Sheaf.
Yeah, that added a little bit extra time too. I didn't know where I could come in based on how I was feeling, but I will tell you that the drugs started kicking in. I felt less nauseous. I was able to eat food for the first time probably since Saturday.
It was a good 90 degrees hot.
Absolutely.
With food and water, big deal.
And so, like, I rely on my sheaf to be very consistent, which is why I come off the ground. My first attempt is usually off the ground because I know what it's going to do every time. I also know that it's going to be at a height where a lot of people will already be eliminated.
Yep.
And so I can take that to my advantage, get a little bit of extra rest time, and then start moving from there.
I think you came in at like 20, 24, 26?
24, 26 is, I think I came in at 24.
You only took like 4 attempts total.
Yeah. But I was feeling pretty good based on the drugs, and probably too like, oh no, this was just a phase, because I was like a shooting star. I burned out real fast during Sheaf. I get jacked for Sheaf more than pretty much any other event. Like, I will get to the point where I am almost hyperventilating and starting to see stars, because it's just such a fun event for me.
How do you train? Like, so talk more about your setup. You take it from the ground. Where are you placing the bag on the ground? How are you lining up from the crossbar?
So
grip.
I learned a long time ago, at least one of the traditional ways of doing Sheaf is not for me. A lot of people do this where they stand up and they kind of bring it up, and it's almost a shrug-like thing. My body didn't understand that. So I've kind of adapted where somebody showed the ground up technique, and I just kind of have ran with that and kind of taken that and turned it into my version of Scottish hammers also. So when I'm throwing, I'm thinking about pushing with my legs, which runs into wait for distance and stone. So I'm turning my legs the way that I want to throw the sheaf, but I'm also pushing my arms through and then dropping my head to the side. So I'm creating a lot there.
That is, when watching you warm up for sheaf, you can definitely see your hips, your legs and your hips. Like it looks like in the warm. What are you thinking? Like it looks like at the right knee. Excuse me, your left hand. So your left. Do you throw sheaf? I'm trying to remember now.
I throw sheaf with my right hand here and my left hand.
Okay. Yeah, but like you warming up, seeing you twist your hip in there, and then the head to the side, the same kind of thing you were talking about with your hammer.
Mm-hmm.
And then go ahead.
So I'm putting it off my left foot, and I'm pushing my left thumb as I go through to my belly button. And I'm not stopping there necessarily. Like I don't think of it as a block, but I think of it as if I get to that point, that means that I've done enough energy to create it from the ground.
The cue is the thumb pushing through up to the belly button there. Show that again. Same back.
So I'll point this down a little bit here. I am thinking my body's going here, so my thumb is here, and I am turning my body and I'm pushing my thumb to my belly button as I go through. So not like I'm still bent over. I am not bringing it anywhere near my body. I've seen enough people skewer themselves. I'm staying away from myself and just creating a little bit of torque with my body as I go. And you
feel like that's similar to hammers.
The similar part is that when I'm releasing, so I've got my fork, I want my head to be away from where it is. So hammers would be here in this phase. I'm thinking my head is here as my fork is off to the extension. And I find that helps me know that I am getting through. So I will still be focusing on the ground as I'm going through, looking down. And that usually tells me that I can go straight up with it. So like when I'm going off the ground, I can be right at the bar. Whereas when I'm starting to do a little bit of swing, whatever my body mechanics does ends up being that I have to take 3 steps out.
And I think you came in at like 26, 24, made 26. And then did you clear? I think you called for a number. You called for 20, called for 28. You ended up clearing 21.
I cleared 29.
Yeah.
And then I tried for 32.
32?
31 or 32, which was probably just outside of what I actually could have done based on how my body was doing. But
you had already won sheaf.
Yeah.
You're just calling for extras to get the crowd going.
Yeah. And the more I do sheaf, generally the easier my body is getting stuff in. I just get carried away sometimes with sheaf and forget that I also have other events like weight over bar.
Man, yeah. Weight over bar, man. Something happened there, dude. What happened with weight over bar?
We
sick again? Well, go ahead.
Oh, I definitely lost the energy that I had from sheaf. I got to sit down for a bit, and then I started feeling, sick, as was, and I knew and have always done this where I come in at 14 feet. I don't come in less than that, generally for anything. And I still believed that on this day, I could come in at 14. Typically what I've done is whatever my season best is, I'll come in at 2 underneath that. So I did 16 in Phoenix. 14 is my starting height. It gives me roughly 6 to 7 throws to make it up to where I want, because I don't have stamina.
Yeah.
I'm not the strongest person in the world. I know that I have 6 to 7 good wob throws before I'm just done.
It's done.
14 has to be where I have to come in. And if I can get in at 1, I'm doing a really good job. Get 15 at 1, and then I've got, good shots at 16 and hopefully good shots at 17. And 14 on the day, I no-heighted, and I left all in the exact same place. I probably could have stood behind the bar and had a better chance of rolling it forward than it actually going backwards on me for the day. So,
Where did you think you stood placing wise after Sheaf? I mean, Sheaf must have got your spirits up, and then this happened in weight over bar.
Usually I let other people tell me how placing goes.
Okay.
I really like throwing things, and I don't necessarily pay attention to where everybody places or what places. And honestly, in my brain, when I no-heighted, I was like, all right, well, I'll be somewhere in the middle of the pack.
Sure.
We got eight, 9 strong guys out here. We traded blows with stones. Then other people came up for weight for distance. Other people came out for hammer. I'll be in the middle of the pack. That's fine. I'm holding it together right now. I'm trying to make it through whatever it happens to be.
Because in the weight over bar, James Rude and Eric Sachs took some points away from Kevin and Zach to kind of keep you more on top of the leaf right there. James ended up clearing 17. I think he took attempts at 18, which is amazing. I mean, amazing.
Yeah.
Big behemoth right there. And Eric got 15. So, man, but Caber went really well for you.
Yeah,
you knew that stick. That was a big stick. Was it?
This was the second time that I got to throw it. Peter Doyle and I got to throw it last year. It was windy and it was hard last year. And I wanted some revenge. It was a 20-foot, 100-pound caber. Yeah. And I happened to be the only person that turned it. And I mean, I feel like we all did a really good job with it. It just was so long that it was hard for anybody to really hit. And even if you hit when you were supposed to, it just kept going.
Did you turn it last year?
I did not. I think I got 50 degrees maybe.
Did Peter
he got I think he got 75, 80 degrees.
Okay.
He had a really good shot on it last year.
I remember now. I remember Peter specifically saying, I want to go back to Vegas just to get that caber, just to flip it.
Yeah.
That's a big caber. You don't see that many cabers that often like that. What did you say? It was 20 feet. How many pounds?
20 feet, 100 pounds.
100 pounds right there. What? How do you how do you warm up? How do you practice caber, especially for those big sticks?
I mean, we thankfully with the Vegas Highland Games group, we have probably all of the cabers that we had at the games available to us. Most of the time when we are practicing, I'm focusing on my pick and my talking with it, or working through how I'm going to actually make it go faster. Because we don't bring the 20-foot one. No. That's a competition one. But we usually have a 17-foot one out there. That's a challenging one for the lightweights, probably B athletes. So I'm not necessarily worried about my turning that one. I'm more worried about how fast can I make it move in a short distance, because it's exhausting to hold on to them. And so that's usually what we do in practice. We usually, I want to say once a month, we try to bring out some cabers. We have the access of bringing out standards. We have a pretty decent community here that meets up every Sunday in Las Vegas.
Awesome. Which park?
We go to Paradise Park, so it's kind of halfway between Henderson and Las Vegas.
Okay.
Nobody really cares that we throw things there, so we continue to do that and try to take care of the field the best that we can, so that people they're taking care of it. They're doing what they need to do while we also can just be there.
So man, yeah, you're the only person to turn the caper. Got a 1 o'clock score, and
Yeah,
then, man, were you what were you? You probably already knew you had the win or had an idea.
I
No
did
idea.
not have any clue. We got done throwing. I went and laid down. They
Like,
announced the stuff, and I was like, oh. And I ended up with first, and then Kevin and Francis both told me that we were tied going into Caber. So whatever happened in Caber between Kevin and I was
okay.
difference. So yeah, it was. I was just happy. I had never really heard of anybody like no hiding on an event or like not taking all the points in an event and then still coming out with a win. It was a very unique thing.
Yeah, even getting on the podium, like Scott Barr did that at lightweight worlds. He no heighted in heavyweight for distance and still made the podium,
Ooh,
which is like that's pretty early in the games to get a no distance.
yeah,
And that was pretty awesome to see that comeback and stuff like that. Yeah.
and that I mean, that's the best of the best. Like
Yeah.
getting out there and doing it. That's crazy.
No, yeah, but man, you had a great day. But overall, you had a great day, man. Just battling that stress with the sickness. And your daughter she was playing with you the whole time during the games.
Mm-hmm.
Like your whole family was there.
Absolutely.
Like that, man. So, like, anything else you want to say about the Vegas games before kind of changing topics a little bit?
I mean, we were at a new venue. I think a lot of things go really well, and I think we'd like to be at bigger next year. We'd like to have two hammers cages. We'd like to have another standard that we can do wobs so that we can keep things moving. We talked about other things like making sure that there were some tents around some of the less shaded area, just to keep those athletes like myself, who I'm pretty sure I had heat exhaustion. I didn't quite get to stroke, but it definitely took me a few days to recover from the games. Would probably have benefited from a few more shades. And so, we're taking the notes. We enjoyed the new venue. I think it's the first time where we've really had people accidentally find us. And Floyd Lamb was beautiful at the state park we were at before, but you had to know where the throws were. Like you had to know that the athletes were back this way. And so I think we had a lot of new people, and every chance that we had like, hey, you look like you want to throw things, come throw with us. Like the bigger we have a general community here, the more often that we can have backyard games or have a bigger Vegas games. So it was a lot of fun for the venue that we were at.
Yeah, so next year, same location, great field, honest field for distance throws, stuff like that. It's a real honest field. You got to wet it down for hammers, for blades, but that's not a surprise considering it's Nevada.
Yeah, we got to do a couple more things with that.
But tons of space. Like, felt really safe throwing hammers, felt really safe throwing weight for distance, which is a big deal. Like going to so many events where you almost get hit. It's like, oh, what the hell? Is this worth it? But yeah, you definitely have room for another hammer cage, another set of standards. Make it a big place. Make it a big place. You're gonna have a pro class?
I mean, we got to find the funding for that this year. Like we have talked to a lot of people.
You gotta find the funding in Vegas. You gotta break some knees, get some funding going right here. That's easy. Teachers board in Vegas has got to be like the most corrupt thing.
Teachers board,
I'm just being
as a teacher, it's a unique place to be here in one of the largest school districts in the nation, even though we are not the largest city in the world. Like we have, I think, top 10. We were 5th for a while. We are now, I'm not sure, but 5th largest school district in the nation.
Really? I never thought about who was the largest right there, Chicago or New York, I would have guessed, or Atlanta.
Yeah, Chicago, Chicago, New York, LA, and then I don't know what's the fourth? Well, like what fourth is, but like, yeah. And then Las Vegas, it comes in.
Really?
So
I wouldn't have guessed top 5 right there. But getting funding for pros,
that would be.
what does that look like? Like, like? I know you were just co-assistant to the AD, correct?
I am the minion. I'm the person that comes in and tries to move things when I am told. Being that my wife is the athletic director.
So, what do you think about the sport? Like longevity in the sport, making games happen. Like, is it? I'm sure it's not easier than you thought it was just watching your wife. Like, what was some unique difficulties or unique things that were uniquely easy about somebody who's putting on games or getting longevity growth in the games?
I mean, things that I think we have going for ourselves is that we have a good amount of local throwers. And then because we have a good amount of local throwers, we've also been able to find local judges, which allows us to save some of that money that would be our normal athletic budget to our judges. Now, our judges are also green and new. They're learning. Some of them never even have ever thrown before, but they like the idea of about helping the community and also just watching people. You know, our judges that we had for Men's A, I enjoyed the freshness of like just being amazed at the throwing.
Yep.
Like, you get to hear the fans sometimes, but they were just like, that was a far throw. And they were saying it to everybody that had, bettered their throw each time. It was.
Yes, she was calling out like improved throw by. It seemed like a couple to me. They looked like a husband and wife duo right there. They were great. I honestly don't know their names, but they were great. But yeah, she was saying stuff like that. 2 foot. Parker Moore did this. Did put 2 foot on his throw. Yeah, real good stuff.
And those are the things that, you know, fans that don't necessarily know us probably need that idea. You know, we also brought out the little markers that you'd see at like a basketball game where you have score for the height events, so that people could see those visually, understand, you know, we're at 29 feet, or and Marissa went 32 feet in the sheet.
Yeah.
So like visually people can see it. It makes it easier for people that came in. They can just be like, oh, that is 32 feet up. Like, that is awesome. And it was a cheap find that makes everybody just have a little bit easier time understanding what we're doing.
Yeah. No, it's very good. Like just telling the height, knowing what like the world record is. Like people want to know that. Best in the world. Best in the world. How much does it weigh? What height are you at right now?
Absolutely.
Want to know. But it's a hard sport to be a spectator for without judges and athletes that are helping out and stuff like that. It is a hard sport like that. Like how to make the sport grow and how to get throwers and stuff like that is hard. I threw in college. I am really surprised that people start throwing later in life. Like it doesn't just kind of baffles my brain. Like why? Like I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's interesting like that.
Well, and I mean, everybody's got to find their outlet. Unfortunately, a lot of people find their outlet later in life, and fortunately for us, a lot of people find that it's Highland games. But I mean, we have people that come out for, you know, I'd almost say it's like a rule of 3. For our Highland games, we've got 3 people that will come out. One will find it and say, "This isn't my thing," and that's totally fine. We understand that it's not your thing. We got another person that's like, I will show up for the games, maybe a practice here and there. And then we got other people that are like, I'm in, let's practice every day. And you're like, let's slowly get into this so that you're not like broken, because throwing heavy things really wears your body down.
Let's segue. I like that rule of 3s right there. Let's segue that into like thrower longevity, like longevity, the thrower, whether it's training and stuff like that. I mean, you're throwing South Dakota. You know how many years you've been throwing just Highland games? How many years you've been throwing just Highland?
We've been throwing for 7 years.
7 years. So, like, what do you think about longevity and Jeopardy Highland Games, train whether it's in the weight room or with the events?
I mean, I've seen a lot of different phases for myself and for my wife. You know, pre our baby, which was 2.5 years ago, we were probably training 3 times a week for throwing. And then lifting, I was lifting 2 to 3 times a week, and she was doing different things between yoga and running and weightlifting, probably 4 times a week. As you get older, obviously, it's harder to do the same amount at the same time.
Same amount of volume, yeah.
Same amount of volume, having a baby puts some time limitations on how long she's willing to be outside in the heat. She's got her school. She's got things that she needs to care for. We want to keep her growing. So right now I practice probably twice a week. We keep that Sunday consistent every weekend because that allows our Vegas people to have that consistency. Yep. And whatever else they do in between the week, like we can give them things that they can do at their gym. We can give them implements to borrow for the week.
Are you showing up to the Sunday? Are you bringing most of the implements for the Sunday practice?
We will bring out our whole trailer.
Dude,
probably
awesome.
once or twice a month, and then other times we will bring, hammers and weights and say, hey, this is what we got. If you want to bring your own stuff,
gotcha, yeah.
So that people have the chance to get a caber in their hands before they go and do it in front of 1,000 people.
Yeah.
So, like, it is the nice thing that we have that advantage to bring out the stuff. Our equipment managers live fairly close to our park, so we can just go and get whatever we need to do. And the crew that shows up on a consistent basis, we know how to set up the standards real quick. We usually don't set up the big ones, the 40-foot ones, but we set up like our 25-foot one. And so, yeah, that consistency really makes a difference for the people that don't want to do this on an everyday basis, but maybe want to just have something that they can show up to once a week.
So you have the practice at Sunday,
mm-hmm.
and then you and the missus have then you have a second practice.
So currently, because I'm a teacher, I get out of school at like 3:30. I will go and I will throw by myself.
Okay. What's that throwing session look like?
Currently, we're doing a lot of sheaf, just to kind of find more rhythm. I can go from the ground really easy, but as I start to swing, like it hasn't quite felt perfect yet. So I'm looking to get 15, 20 throws in like a half-hour time. So it's giving me something before I go and get my baby. And then I lift in the morning. So, I had before Phoenix, I was doing 3 days a week where I was doing a stone one day, sheaf another day, and then whatever we have at practice. So my big things that I practice on Sundays are usually the weight for distance and hammers, because those are the ones that leave the big dents and will get us kicked out of most parks.
Gotcha.
But those are also the ones where everybody needs the more help with. Stones you can kind of get along. You give a couple tips, then they can kind of do whatever they need to do. Sheaf is one of those things that only happens once a month, and we'll teach people there, and along with WOB when we have the standards. But I mean, if you can do a good weight for distance and a hammer, like those are the ones that most people are like, these are my favorites. I like these ones.
Okay. No, I see what you're saying there. Allocating your training time for the local throwing community, like helping them out there, and so setting up stones and sheaf on your own. Mm-hmm. How do you set up the sheaf? So the sheaf practice, a couple, like just taking 20, 30 throws. You're just eyeballing it against a lamppost.
I'm honestly not even worried about where it's flying, height wise. I've got shoes out. I put my extra pair of shoes out 10 feet apart ish. And then I'm looking to see if it's consistently going like the highest part of the arc is going over the top of the shoes and then in between the shoes. So I don't know what height I'm throwing. I'm at the point where I probably should be concerned, but also at the same time, as long as I can get it to go through and make that adjustment, those are probably the harder things. Like, can I consistently do my technique to where I can make an in-game adjustment? Can I say, I will do this the exact same way, I just need to take a step out? Those are more important to me than did I get it, how high did I get it, and things like that.
Gotcha.
You can't go high if you can't make it over the bar.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Man, I don't know, man. Is there anything else you wanted to chat about? Like, kind of all my thoughts and questions about things going on. What's the next games you're training for?
So we're going to do Utah. We're going to go up to Salt Lake City, do a camping.
That's June 18th.
Yes, June 18th.
Just talking to my buddy. I was just talking to my buddy Tony Barrasso about that. That's lightweight nationals.
Oh,
so I think he's going to try to go to that.
I'm excited. I know that they have a good organization in Utah, and they have almost a games a month that you can go to and stuff like that. And I know they like it just sounds like a good time. We want to go camping. We're going to camp like the couple nights before, check out the Salt Lake Flats and stuff like that, and then do the throwing thing. So that's the next game we have. I have Minnesota amateurs in August, Wichita, which is the IHGF All-American, the end of September, beginning of October. And then, wherever else we kind of.
And that's what this was qualifying for, that Wichita game. This you win in Vegas, IHFG qualifier. France was there, qualified you for Wichita.
Yes.
And then who else? How many other games are there for qualifiers? Like that lineup isn't locked in yet.
I want to say there's like 8 to 10. I'm not sure all of the different qualifiers, but they usually bring them all together to go to Wichita, and then like the men's, whoever wins the men's then has the chance to represent United States as the amateur. The women's, they take the top 4 women to go and do an IHGF Women Against the World. This year, Christina qualified last year for the women's one that is in Oklahoma this year. So we'll probably also go to that one. I don't know if I'll throw at that one. I think it will just be me cheering and hanging out with baby girl so that she can cheer and stuff.
When is that, Oklahoma?
That I don't know.
Okay.
It's somewhere in the October, like fall schedule. I just haven't made it past the end of the school year quite yet, other than.
You're just figuring things out. I get that.
And, that's the nice thing about both of us being amateurs is that we can, pick where we want to go, when we want to go. And then, we try to pick it where we have some family. It's nice to be able to go see people. We've seen Christina's grandparents in Florida, and allowed us to throw in Florida. We had friends that were in DC when we went to Virginia. I've got a lot of family in Minnesota that we can kind of bring them together and just say hi, which just doesn't happen necessarily in the West Coast because it's just such a vast space for where we have. So it's nice.
No, I get that. I'm doing a games in Michigan, and I'm doing it because my mom. It's just an easier trip for my mom.
Mm-hmm.
Like a flight from Delaware to Michigan is just easier than Delaware to Arizona.
Yeah, meet somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, meet somewhere in the middle, something like that. Yeah, so playing those games around like friends and family and stuff like that. Right there. And you guys are both amateurs. So if you were to ever go pro, she would have to go pro to do pro team events.
I don't know how that would work. I know that if we go pro, or if I go pro, then it's reliant on who would be willing to take me. And so, that's a unique thing that we've discussed, and we like right now because we don't get to practice a whole lot. and our daughter is 2.5. And she's not willing to stay out there with one of us yet.
Yeah.
So we kind of have to have both of us if she's going to be there. She's done a really good job with us in the gym, and she has her own caber, she has her own stone that we have that she can throw.
Yeah.
She lifts with us a little bit. She'll watch some YouTube, come over, join us.
She's 2, right?
She is 2, yeah.
So you're really talking up a big storm for a 2-year-old.
Yeah, no.
She lifts a little bit. She has her own caber and stone. All right, man.
So she has her own weight bench, and it has styrofoam weights on it. So
it's like a pool noodle.
Yep. Basically, but it has like plastic in between. So she'll come in, she'll lift, she'll sit on my lap pull down machine so that I have extra weight. And
That's hilarious.
She just likes to go up and down on it. So like she'll be there with us, and that's really our hope, is that she I don't care if she wants to do throwing, that's fine.
Yeah.
She'll choose that when she wants to. But we're gonna offer those things for her, and she's got to understand that, like, for my sanity, I have to throw things. This is how I relieve the weeks of school. This is how I relieve, like, everything that is being an adult, is that I just get to throw things, and I don't care what I get to throw, as long as I get to throw something.
What do you teach, man?
I am a PE teacher.
Okay. All right.
So
I forgot you were a teacher until you mentioned a few times.
It is a much more relaxing time now, because I was a special education teacher.
Okay.
And I love both populations, but there was an amount of paperwork that was crushing on Fed versus PE, where it's like, I am teaching you how to move your body, and hopefully you will understand that, whether it's jump rope, whether it's hula hoop, so that you can be just slightly more athletic, or you can find something that you kind of enjoy and you can take it wherever you want it to be.
That's awesome, man. That is awesome, man. So dude, I will see you then probably in Utah. Okay. What about Minnesota? Which is going to be, what games is on your radar, like, more, Minnesota or Kansas?
I mean, they are both equally on my radar. I enjoy both. We've been to Wichita, I think, 4 or 5 years in a row. This will be my 3rd Minnesota games. They both bring different atmospheres, but also just fun atmospheres. Renaissance Festival in Minnesota is a month long, and we are just one weekend in there. And that's really cool.
That's great for spectators. That's great.
Exactly. They have buildings that are set up year round there that they just go in and fill in amongst all these trees. It was probably one of my daughter's favorite, because there were elephants and other animals there that she got to go and see. So that's amazing. But the group that we've met in Wichita is also part of the reason that we got to go to Chile and be a part of the group that gets to go and throw, but also work with the Chilean group that wants to throw things. We have a lot of weights up here. They have some weights down there, but a lot of them are strong men and strong women that are learning to do things. And so we were able to go down there and hang out with them and throw with them. And it was an amazing time. And without going to Wichita, we probably wouldn't have known about that opportunity. And I think they try to get a lot of masters athletes there. And I mean, if you can go to Chile for a week, like, it is a well worth time to fly down there and check it out with all of the people that truly love, like, the Scottish heritage.
That is, I'm glad you brought up Chile, because that is in the Scottish heritage, because that is like one of those places, like, what? I mean, I get it. Strong people and want to throw things. I get, like, the Highland Games, the Scottish heritage. Like, that's an odd combination.
You just got to find people that, like, I mean, there's groups all over the world that have those unique games. I've always thought about like looking at the ones in the world, like, you know, my wife has Greek heritage. We want to do games in Greece. Like I want to find somebody that can help us set up a Highland Games in Greece. Why? Because it would be amazing to throw in Greece. You know, we've been a couple times to go see her family that's still in Greece, and like we've been to Olympia, where the ancient games.
Wow, yeah.
It is like it's just a place meant to throw things at, or it's meant to have athletic endeavors. So it would be amazing to be able to go over there and do games there. My wife and I did our honeymoon. We went to Bridge of Allen and through in Scotland.
Where?
Bridge of Allen. So it's near Stirling. And we got to
Okay.
throw. So that was my second games I'd ever done. And I got to follow Scott Ryder in Cape.
Yeah.
He was just like the week before named the caber world champion, and I had to follow my caber that I had never like seen the size of, because my first event I was a novice. So you know, you got toothpicks to like this giant log, and I'm throwing with Scott Ryder, and he's just like bam. I was like, this is my honeymoon. This is this is fascinating.
Dude, when was that?
That was 2016.
Man, that was your second. That was your second games.
That was my second games. We went over, well, like we knew that was going to be part of our thing. We didn't know like what to expect in the games because we were still new to the games. You know, Christina also threw. She threw with the men, so she threw both stones. She threw the lightweight for distance. She skipped out on the heavy, the wob, and the caber, and she threw hammers with us. So like it was just us group as one. So we had Scott Ryder, Wenta, Lucas Wenta, like we're just like, this is awesome. This is cool.
That is pretty awesome. Like, you know, just it's always good to compete with people at a higher level.
Yeah,
or specials like that. It's always a great exposure to like see the game and how they put it together and stuff like that. That's awesome. That's ridiculous.
It was, I mean, one of my favorite things. And like, if there's a Highland game somewhere where we can go that is unique like that, like it was amazing. We got to go to France and throw last year in France. Chile was amazing. Like, these international trips are just a lot of fun. And I wouldn't want to have it any other way. Like, I get to throw things, I get to see international things, or even, you know, I'd never been to Virginia before Highland Games, and I got to go do that. Florida, I had been once before Florida. So like, this is one of the ways that we use to get some vacation time and then go and explore a place that we've never seen.
Ditto, man. I do the same thing, like plan my trips and take off work for games.
Do you have any games that are like high on your list that you'd like to go to that you haven't yet?
That's a great question. I wouldn't say particularly like there's a game right there. It's more about like just throwing the numbers in the performance right there. I mean, going to Scotland would definitely be some games to kind of throw to and stuff like that. But I don't have a specific games. Just going there.
Mm-hmm.
Just going there would be the plan right there.
Yeah.
No, definitely. I mean, we got some games going on in Tucson. We have at least 2 good home games. They're kind of like almost backyarders. But we had a Tartan Games May 1st, second year in a row, and like that just games has been really good. Like it's really thrower centric. Like it's on a golf course, so it's like it's on a driving range.
Okay.
So like it's everybody's throwing in one direction, all the spectators on the other side of the line, and it's really easy right there to kind of go through. But man, games that are on my bucket list. No, I don't got games that are on my bucket list. I'm now in master's class, so I got to figure out stuff about master's ranking and stuff like that.
Okay.
All these how they figure out that ranking and stuff like that. Like I don't know what those games are, but no, man. Albuquerque's next weekend. I'm going to that games. I'm going to see. They've got a pro team going on there. So it's gonna be fun. Spencer's going to throw.
Nice.
So that'll be fun to see Spencer throw against Aaron Castle. And Nick McPhee is going to be there. So that's the next game that's on my radar. That's next weekend.
That's in the balloon park? Or is
Yeah,
that,
Balloon Festival Park. Yeah.
that is
I'd never been there.
one of my, like, we did that a couple of years ago. I have enjoyed, just happened to work out that we couldn't go this year. But Albuquerque has been some of my favorite games. And also like where I started figuring out Sheaf, like, cause I was throwing against a guy named John Anthony.
Okay.
And we like just hammered it away on Sheaf, where like both of us would just miss both of our first attempts, and we ended up 32 33 feet up in the air with the 20-pound Sheaf, and it was one of my favorite battles that I've ever had.
Oh, it's like just a ding dong battle.
Yes, it was a complete ding dong battle where one of us would make it on like our second, and then the other one would have to go to the third, but then we just kept going foot by foot, farther and farther up.
Like 1 foot increments.
Yeah, because we were both exhausted. Like we were both just gone.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed the balloon park, and I can't say the other town's name because I don't know. I feel like it was Benilo. They switched to another place for a little bit, and then they came back this year. I think both places were fun to throw at.
You got a date set for Vegas 2024?
I have not heard anything yet. It is always an interesting thing trying to plan around whenever Easter is, and usually I think the date comes out somewhere, I want to say August, September is when we kind of have that nailed down. It might be a little bit later, just depending, but now that we have a different venue, it should be a little bit more on the radar, but we will definitely post that as soon as we can so people know.
Dude, man. Awesome, dude. I will see you. Thank you so much for your time, man. Vegas is a blast, man. I will see you in Utah probably.
Perfect.
In June.
I like it.
Dude, man, you have a great day, Sean. Train hard, buddy.
You too. Talk to you later.